The signature was right there in front of him. 1 page, 3 lines, a date from 3 years ago. His signature, his handwriting, on a document he never knew he'd signed. Ethan Nash looked at the man sitting across from him. The man he'd known since they were 6 years old. The man who wept at his wedding, who carried his father's casket, who was the last voice he heard before sleep on the hardest nights of his life. He looked at him and said nothing, because some betrayals are too large to become words. To understand what happened, you need to go back to the beginning, to a narrow street in an old neighborhood, to 2 boys who owned nothing but time and each other. Ethan Nash was always the taller one, quiet, the kind of person who thinks before he speaks. Marcus Webb was his opposite in every way. Talks before he thinks, laughs before he gets the joke, fills every room with his presence as though silence physically hurts him. When they were 10, 3 older boys cornered Marcus in the alley behind their street. They wanted his watch, his father's watch, the only thing the man had ever left him. Ethan didn't plan anything, he just jumped. It ended with a broken nose for Ethan, a saved watch for Marcus, and an unspoken oath between them that needed no words. That kind of oath, the kind that's never said aloud, is the hardest to forget and the easiest to betray. 2 years after university, they sat in a cheap coffee shop and Marcus was drawing on a paper napkin. A consulting firm. You handle engineering, I handle economics. We complete each other. Ethan looked at those tangled lines on the napkin. He didn't see a business plan. He saw an extension of everything they already were. We need capital. I have a solution. The solution was Uncle Robert Webb, a man built by hard work and sharpened by arithmetic. He had never given a single dollar in his life without knowing exactly where it was going and exactly when it would come back. They sat in front of him for a full hour. They talked. He listened. Then he said, "1 condition. Ethan signs as equal partner. I trust Ethan." Marcus smiled at that, but the smile didn't reach his eyes. That small detail, Ethan never noticed it. And if he had, everything would have been different. Nash and Webb Consulting launched from a single office with 3 chairs. By year 3, they had a full floor. By year 5, offices in 3 cities. By year 7, the name was known. Ethan built things, Marcus opened doors, and everything worked. On the surface. Frank Hammond arrived in year 7, a major investor, a large project. Numbers neither of them had seen before, and a man with one rule he never broke. He dealt with one person only. In the first meeting, Frank asked calmly, "Who's the lead partner on this project?" And before Ethan could speak, Marcus said, "I am." 1 sentence, 3 words, but it was a line. The first line in a map Ethan didn't know was being drawn. Meetings with Frank started happening without Ethan. Frank prefers it that way. Decisions started being made and then reported. It couldn't wait. His name started disappearing from project correspondence. Just an organizational thing. Each one of these things was acceptable on its own. Together, they were forming something else. But Ethan hadn't connected them yet. One night, his wife Claire read his face before he said a word. "Something's bothering you. I don't know what to call it. Talk to him." "There's nothing concrete to talk about." She stopped reading her book and looked at him. "That's exactly what worries me." But he didn't talk to Marcus. Because real trust doesn't ask for proof. That's what he believed. And that's what he let work against him. Uncle Robert died on a Tuesday morning. A heart attack. He hadn't been sick. He gave no warning. The will came 2 weeks later. He distributed his assets, left instructions for many things. But there was one strange request no one expected. He asked that the company's founding contracts be reviewed to ensure both partners' rights were equally protected. A man who knew something and never said it while he was alive. A week later, Ethan and Marcus sat in the office to review the contracts. Ethan opened the file, read again, raised his head. There's an amendment to the ownership structure. Marcus's face didn't change. When was this done? Ethan, there are things we should have... When was this done? The amendment reduced Ethan's share by 18 percentage points from what he believed he held. Not a sudden decision. There were signatures, dates, a methodical sequence, a plan. You signed this yourself. Ethan found the page buried inside a thick stack of documents. His signature, 3 years ago, on a day that had been a long, exhausting meeting. Marcus had described it that day as a routine tax procedure. A routine tax procedure. Ethan sat in a long silence. The kind of silence that fills a room and makes the air heavy. Then he asked in a voice that was quiet in a frightening way, "Why?" "Because it was right. You're an engineer, Ethan. I'm the one who actually ran all of this. The split should have been different from the beginning. You could have told me that. Would you have accepted it?" Ethan stopped, because the answer was no. And Marcus knew that. And Marcus knew that Ethan knew that. "You betrayed me. I managed what we built." He stood up, put on his coat, walked out. No shouting, no tears. Some wounds run deeper than tears. That same night, Ethan told Claire everything. She listened, didn't interrupt, then said, "I'm afraid this isn't everything." Ethan spent 3 days reading every document in his office, not as a partner, as an investigator. Business relationships quietly redirected away from him. Accounts he couldn't access easily. Investors who didn't know his name. A fence built stone by stone over years. Each move had seemed logical on its own. Together they meant one thing. Marcus hadn't acted in a moment of weakness. He had planned. And in that difference, everything. Ethan requested a formal meeting at a lawyer's office, not at the company. A lawyer's office keeps words in their place. Marcus came with a lawyer too. Ethan watched him walk in with that leather briefcase and that gray-haired attorney beside him, and understood that Marcus was not surprised. He was ready. He had probably been expecting this day longer than Ethan had. 3 hours of legal language, figures and clauses and rights and claims. Then the lawyers stepped outside for a few minutes, and the two men were alone. Marcus, Ethan, their names, as if each was confirming the other still existed. Why? Just between us, why? Marcus was quiet. Then, because you were always the one people believed, and I was always the one who delivered. I brought the relationship, you got the respect. I brought the money, Robert trusted you. Even your name. People hear it and they know who you are. Me? I'm Marcus, the other partner. I was always a footnote. You had this inside you and never told me. I told you things, you didn't hear them. You never told me this. I told you things close to it. You didn't stop at them. Even if there was a real grievance inside you, the method was betrayal. In business, there's no such thing as betrayal. There are only interests. That's what you need to tell yourself to live with this. The lawyers returned, and what had never really been a conversation ended. 10 months. That's how long the legal case took. Ethan won some of it, but the company he had built with his own hands was no longer what it had been. Nothing divided returns to what it was. Like broken glass that's been glued back together, the shape is there, but the lines remain. Ethan left the company eventually, by his own choice. He started a new firm, alone, smaller. But every decision in it was a decision he knew. Marcus removed Ethan's name from the sign. In the first months, Ethan sometimes drove past the old building. Not intentionally. The road went that way. And each time he would glance up at the floor that used to be our office and keep driving. Our office. A phrase that no longer meant anything. 4 years passed. A message came from Marcus's cousin. Marcus was ill, something with his heart. Ethan read it twice, closed his phone. He waited to feel satisfaction. It didn't come. what came was stranger. A grief for something that no longer existed. For a version of them that was two boys who knew nothing about money and percentages and who gets the credit. He sat alone and asked the question he'd been deferring for 4 years. Did Marcus ever actually love him? Was all of it false? Every one of those late nights, the laughter, the cramped apartment, the tea and the rain, the answer he arrived at was not sharp or clean or comforting. Maybe both were true. Maybe Marcus loved him and envied him at the same time. Maybe the friendship was real and the betrayal was real. Maybe people are too complicated to be given a single face. That didn't make the wound hurt less, but it made it understandable. And sometimes, understanding is all you can get. A week later, Ethan went to the hospital. He didn't tell Claire. He just said he'd be out for an hour, got in the car, arrived mid-morning, asked for the room, went up. He stood in front of the white door for a long time. Then he turned the handle and went in. Marcus was awake, alone in that moment. He looked at Ethan and, for the first time in his life, he didn't know what to say. Marcus, who always talked before he thought, who always filled the silence. Silent. Ethan sat in the chair beside the bed. They didn't shake hands. "How are you?" "Fine, thank you." Silence. Not the old, comfortable silence. The silence of two men searching for ground that's still safe to stand on. "Thank you for coming." Ethan stayed 15 minutes. They talked about the weather, about the old neighborhood, about nothing that went near the real thing. Then he stood to leave. At the door, he turned. "I haven't forgiven you. But I came. That's enough." "No, it's not enough. But it's all I have." And he walked out. That evening, Claire asked, "Where were you?" "I went to see Marcus." She looked at him for a long moment. How did it feel? He thought about it. Then, like some things don't end, they just stop. He sat down and closed his eyes. Betrayal, when it comes from someone you love, doesn't resemble any other kind of loss. Not because the loss is larger, but because the loss is double. You lose the person, and you lose the version of yourself that trusted them. And you ask yourself over and over, should I have known? Were there signs? The honest answer is maybe. But reading the signs would have meant living in constant suspicion, and living in constant suspicion of the people you love is not living. Total trust is the greatest risk in life, and it is, at the same time, the only thing that makes certain parts of life worth having. There is no way to have it without accepting the risk of losing everything. That is the brutal equation, and no one is above it. Ethan threw the last stone into the river. The circle spread, then disappeared. The river moved on, as it always had. It remembers nothing. It forgets nothing. It just flows.